What's up, everybody? Do you get stuck in failure? Are you tired of failing? Do you sometimes give up? Well, you're in luck because today's video, we're going to be talking about how to fail forward. This is the Existential Stoic Podcast, episode 150. Woo!
Woo!
I'm Randy. That's Danny. Thanks for joining
A
us.
lot of
What's up,
fanfare.
Danny? Yeah.
What's up,
So,
Randy?
yeah.
That's when
So
I think we need music.
we could
Go
we could
ahead.
incorporate some music, definitely.
Yeah,
Like
eventually.
Mario Brothers. Do 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 do. Anyways,
Wah,
how to
wah,
fail
wah.
forward. Important topic. Because a lot of people
Yes.
fail and then they stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, I
why
think
fail
that's just it,
forward?
right? Well, I think it's because we gotta keep going, right? I think that's the thing we forget is that, in all those failures, there's bound to be some success, hopefully, right? I mean, eventually
Hmm.
and at least you're still going. Because that's one thing we forget about failure, right? Failure is a sign that you're still going, you're still trying. And I think that's in and of itself a win.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about this myself this week about why mistakes are so important. Because
Hmm.
it's literally like it's not only the path to get you where you want to go, but it's like how you learn what you like and what you don't like. And
It's how you learn
like,
everything too.
yeah,
It's like
it's
how you know what you're capable of.
right.
It's like
Right. And it's
it,
so
it is
important,
funny.
and people are afraid of it.
Well, what's funny too? Like this is the other thing that's funny is like I was thinking back to college after you mentioned this, and like it's always nice to have those easy courses that you sail through, but the ones you remember are always the ones that were a pain in the ass because they're also the ones you like learn the most from, right? The projects that were super hard, but you're like, yo, I did it. And it's like those are the ones where even if it didn't come out perfect, like you're still proud of yourself for doing it. And I think that's the other thing. It's like our self-worth is really tied to our failure and our overcoming those failures too. So you have to keep going through it.
Absolutely. So this should be a good one today. We're going to share three quick fixes each, little tips and tricks to help you get through to fail forward. So my first one is never stop. So if you want to fail forward, you just keep going. Like you already, before you even get started, you already accept that you're going to fail. That is part of the process. And then you just get it out of the way. Like that happens to me all the time nowadays. Cause like when people are like, you did that wrong. I'm like, okay, fine. That was my first try. Great. I'll do it again. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
But like
I
some
think
people be
it's
like, no, why did I do that wrong? What's wrong with me? Am I not a good person? And it's just like, yeah, okay, fine. My first try. Great. I'll do it 5,000 other times and then I'll get it right one of these times.
Well, it also builds into it, like in your mentality, right? The idea of growth and not just like perfection the first time, which is ridiculous and doesn't work. And I think it also like mentally prepares you. It's the right attitude. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's smart because it's like I've killed myself so many times, raked myself over the coals for thinking that I did something wrong the first time. And it's like, well, why would I know how to do it right? It's like it's my first try.
I always remember the story you tell of the professor who was like much older than you, and you're like, I'll never be able to do what you're doing. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like 50 years older than you.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, put in that perspective, it's like, oh right, 5 decades is a long time.
Yeah.
I like that one though. Goes nicely with my first one, which is take chances, and I think this is crucial for failure. And I heard this a lot whenever I listen to how I built this, where they talk about like entrepreneurs building businesses and the amount of times that they think they're like buried or they think they're done, and it's all about taking those chances and trying again, and they keep going, and it's really like it's more their endurance that causes their success or their perseverance in anything else. And the failure is just their accumulation until they, eventually succeed. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you have to take those chances in order to fail. You have to give yourself room to fail, maybe. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because it's the whole thing with risk and reward. Like you rarely ever get reward without the risk, but you have to be willing to
Yeah.
risk it in order to go for that reward. And so taking those chances is very important. Yeah. My next one is let problems break on you. So a lot of people, myself included, guilty, get
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
a lot of people let their problems break them. Like they fail a class or things didn't work out in a relationship or whatever, and they break because of that. But another method that I've heard about, and this was from the Power of Positive Thinking, was there was this I think a military guy, and he was saying whenever he encountered a problem, he would just stand his ground and let the problem break on him. And I just like visualize that so well, just seeing like this giant like piece of rock just coming and just breaking on top of him. Because literally, like if you stand your ground, your problem has no choice but to break on you. But most
I
people,
like that
as soon
one.
as we get hit by a problem, we break. And
Well,
so
yeah, we we pursue comfort immediately, right? We hide back in our cave, we get under the covers. And like I think that's such a good one too, because it made me the first thing I visualized is like standing on the shore and the waves crashing on you but not moving
mhm.
instead of like getting out of the way, right? And I think, yeah, it's such a good one because I think that our first like impulse is to find comfort. And instead, what's that saying is like, no, just stand there in the discomfort and face it. And that's the only way you're going to overcome it. You have to kind of be facing forward first. I like that a lot.
And
That's
that's
a
an
good one.
important part that you said there. Stand there in the discomfort because it's gonna be uncomfortable. You're not gonna want to be there. You're gonna have to be patient. And yeah, that's the hard part.
the, the worst too is how many times, dude, I feel like I go through this and I have to keep reminding myself the same thing over and over. And I think everybody's like that. So I think we're a good company, but I think it's just the case, right? It's human nature. We want to be comfy and secure and binge watch TV, but nothing gets done then. And it's like, miserable.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Here's my so my next one I think works well with that one, which is try new things. And I think, we have to be in order to kind of one, figure out what we should be failing at, we have to be continually trying things, which means failing over and over again. And I think it's one of the crucial ways we find what we like, we find what we're interested in, and we also find out what's worth standing there and enduring. Because I think a lot of times our problem is too, like we focus on things that we're not really don't care about. So failing does seem critical because it's like, oh, I don't want to keep doing this. It sucks. But if we really like it, it doesn't matter. Those are just part of the process, and it becomes a lot easier, I think, to bear it.
Mm-hmm. And plus, you can see like the long term goal of it. Like
Yeah.
I know me personally, I struggle with that when I have to do these things that I can't see the long term goal for. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Why are we doing this? It doesn't matter. But like,
I
yeah.
was just gonna say, like, dude, but we mentioned before, both learning computer programming. It's like there's so much to learn, and when you look at it that way, like it can feel like there's days where I get so overwhelmed. But then I'm like, oh no, I just gotta do this one problem or this one thing and keep going forward, and I'll get there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, build it up brick by brick. That's the best way. So my last one is just outlast it. So like, but with failing forward, just outlast it. Like I've heard this, I think it was from Eric Thomas, the hip hop preacher. He was talking about how like
Nice.
he's not his success doesn't come from being smarter than anybody else or stronger than anybody else or working harder than anybody else. He just outlasts it. Whatever it is, like he's gonna get there. He knows what he wants, and he's just gonna get there. He's gonna outlast it. Everything that comes up, every problem, every issue, he's just gonna outlast it. And it kind of beckons back to what you were talking about with the people and the persistence and the perseverance with the podcast that you were talking about. How basically all the successes they just outlast all of the problems. If you just keep going, eventually, all you need is one home run, and you find that
Yeah.
eventually.
Yeah. It's so funny too. It's like it cracks into when you really think about it. It's like, what are our options, right? It's like keep going because we're gonna have to anyway. And
Mhm.
either we keep going, trying things that we want to try and doing what we want to do and pursuing what we want to pursue, or not. And it's miserable. And I think when you look at it that way too, it's like, what's the alternative? You might as well. And I
Yeah.
think that's a good point. Just outlast it. Keep going. If it's important to you, stick with it forever.
I really like that viewpoint. What's the alternative? Because most people imagine the alternative is, oh, a life of comfort. I'd be a celebrity. Like
With
drive
none
my
of the
Lambo.
work.
All this, they imagine that's the alternative, but that's not the alternative. The alternative is
Yeah.
being stuck in your shitty life right now. So like,
Yeah.
it's like you either
Exactly.
do this or you're just stuck in your shitty life right now. So it's
And it's
what do you want?
and we're all guilty of it. It's so funny, but we are. And it's like, yeah, exactly. Do something. Yeah, and it my last one's actually something I think you remind me of a long time ago, but super important, worth mentioning, which is good is better than perfect. And I think I still do, but I used to get caught up in perfectionism all the time. And it was really like, I think it was also like a safety mechanism, right? So it protects you from having to accomplish anything. You always have an excuse. You can always blame something else. whatever, your own worst critic. But the reality is you're never getting anything done and you're never trying either. You're never putting yourself out there. So you have to just throw shit at the wall. And sometimes, just recognize that good and done is better than perfect any day.
That one's so important. And I think we're taught the exact opposite in school. We're taught that perfect is the only option. But it's kind of funny because if you look back through history, like the people who have actually produced work, yes, sure, some of them were like geniuses and were out of this world. But for the most part, the people who actually produced stuff were the people who were like, okay, good is better than perfect. I'm going to get this book published. Good is better than perfect. I'm going to get this piece of art done. And so like all the almost, I would say the large collection of what we have in the world is from people who know that good is better than perfect. So literally the perfectionists just get buried. Like nobody remembers perfectionists. So it is,
they don't.
Yeah, it is a good
because they
one.
never get anything out there. They never complete anything, and it's like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's it. Quick fix for you on how to fail forward. It's very important to fail, and to fail forward is extremely important as well. This has been the Existential Stoic Podcast, episode 150. Can you believe it, Danny?
Woo. No, I can't. But I can actually, because we keep doing it. So I guess eventually.
I know, right? One of these times we're going to get that home run. Yeah. But thank you for joining us today. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. Catch us later in the week. And that's all. So thanks for joining us. I'm Randy. That's Danny. I'll see you later, Danny.
Later, Randy.